Something I hear or read people say a lot is, how come there's never been another film like Who Framed Roger Rabbit? And the reality is, if you actually look at film history, there's been a lot of films like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You have the obvious forced knockoffs like Cool World. I say forced because if you know that movie's history, you know it was nothing like Who Framed Roger Rabbit before the executives came in with their cheap suits. You have something like the very recent Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and hell, the film I compared that one to, The Happy Time Murders, which may have been with puppets, but you really could argue it is in the same vein. There's also both Wreck-It Ralph films, which people were calling the next Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and now suddenly they aren't, despite the fact Wreck-It Ralph 1 still seems very highly regarded. And it's a simple case of this, because there are two things Who Framed Roger Rabbit really is. In your first hand, it's a spectacle film. This is even more true when you factor in the director, Robert Zemeckis, the guy who gave us The Polar Express, Forrest Gump, Back to the Future, all of the Back to the Futures actually. A man who was excellent at taking a non-mainstream idea, say time travel, motion capture CG, and giving a very mainstream appealing film. You can have your problems with Back to the Future, it can certainly be hokey a few times, but you can never argue it's not a mainstream film, despite the fact it's a science fiction romp with time travel. Forrest Gump is not necessarily universally loved anymore, but it was a historical in-joke film about several decades of American history. The fact it was ever mainstream means something. And The Polar Express, man! First film to really double down on motion capture CG, which is now no longer impressive only because video games have done that so well. In historical sense, though, Polar Express meant something, especially because it appealed to mainstream audiences despite being a technical marvel. Zemeckis was really good at that, so picking him for live action with hand-drawn animated characters was the right call, and because of that, it has remained a spectacle film. A lot of people's favorite scenes are those spectacles. I have a personal favorite, which is the singing sword.
Wicked witch cry.
And the dueling ducks on piano. Find somebody who doesn't love that. And because of that, the spectacle thing is so big and bombastic, that's sort of what people end up thinking of when they think of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or any film that tries to be like it. That's why, after one of those movies comes out, people start going, you know what was a great movie? Who Framed Roger Rabbit? If only they could do something like that. But when one is about to come out, or when it's still opening weekend, wow, this is the next Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The spectacle draws people in, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit is still just the most visually appealing one. And it's the biggest, bombasticest one because it's a Robert Zemeckis film. Even Space Jam couldn't top this kind of thing, and Space Jam had very stretchy Michael Jordan. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit is more than just a spectacle. And that is why the other films that either directly try to ape its success, or happen to be in the same kind of spectacle genre, if you want to call it, do end up failing for one way or another. Are you liking the video so far? If you aren't aware from what the title means, this is a re-edit of a video that was originally hardcore copyright claimed by the YouTube algorithm when it was first uploaded a year ago, and now I have a safe for YouTube version right here, right now. If you're curious to what that video originally did look like, it's over on my Vimeo, which will be linked below, the direct video, not just my Vimeo channel. If you're curious to see the original video that I put in place of the video, that video got privated, well actually unlisted, so it'll be in the end card, and I think I might even put a little notification right in the top right hand here, just in case you're curious. If you do decide to go watch that unlisted video, you'll hear talk about a Patreon, but the Patreon is dead. I just didn't really like using Patreon. The way I fund myself these days is, I have storefronts on itch.io, Ko-Fi, Ko-fi, however you pronounce it, I've heard coffee from some people, and Squarespace Marketplace. These are PDFs that are a novella, my original one that was published back in 2014, a rewrite of that novella, because after all, it was my first book. I felt there was some stuff that could be improved, and a PDF that is the 5 10-minute plays that I wrote and that were performed when I was still in college. If you don't know what a 10-minute play is, it is a play that can take no longer than 10 minutes. They're usually for festivals, hence why I'm just selling the scripts instead of trying to use them again. It's not because theater is dead, although, you know, there's sort of a point to that. So if you would like to support me in any way, that is how you do so below. Anyway, I'll let you get back to the video, and remember, if you do like it, hit like. If you don't, hit dislike. The algorithm thinks it's the same thing for some reason, although I will see the personal attack and will try to do better. Comment below in the comments if you have anything interesting to say about what you learned from this video. And I was going to say subscribe if you would like to, but that is someone else's catchphrase and I shouldn't steal that. So subscribe if you happen to click the button that says subscribe. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a legitimate murder mystery, and the main characters are all original characters. I'll stop you right there if you're about to fun fact me. Yes, this movie is based on a book. Very loosely so. The original book is even based off of comic strips. Nothing about Hollywood filmmaking and nothing about Hollywood cartoons. At least to my knowledge. I have unfortunately never read it, but, you know, the same author also decided that his book sucked after seeing the movie because the book's sequel is the sequel to the movie. Sneaky move there, Mr. Wolf. But because it has original main characters, it focuses on them and tells their story. That spectacle stuff, at the end of the day, is icing on the cake. So if the cake itself is not there and not fully done, all you have is icing. And that is a problem some of these other Roger Rabbit-esque spectacle films sometimes fail at. Let's go back to the duck duet for a second to really highlight how that scene is the best scene in the movie, and it's not because of the dueling ducks.
This is the last time I work with someone with a speech impediment.
Oh, yeah!
This means war.
Think of how much that scene actually establishes. It's the first scene where we meet Jessica Rabbit, but just before then, that is the same scene where we're finally introduced to Marvin Acme, the murder victim. There's a lot there to unroll the more you realize that. There's also that beautiful moment where Eddie gets to meet up with Betty Boop after what sounds like could be very well a decade of just not catching up with each other.
Cigars? Cigarettes? Eddie Valiant!
Betty?
Long time no see.
What are you doing here?
Work's been kind of slow since cartoons went to color. But I still got it, Eddie. Boop, boop-be-doo.
Yeah, you still got it.
We've already seen that Eddie does not like tunes. We've been told directly why he does not like tunes. And he talks to Betty Boop like an old friend he wished he saw more of. And the feeling is completely mutual. It helps to soften a character that the audience might have been ready to shrug off as, I don't know if I like this guy, he hates cartoons. Not only that, I caught this in my most recent rewatch.
Work's been kind of slow since cartoons went to color.
Betty Boop gives some world building here. So she's not just a cameo for the sake of pointing at the screen and saying, "It's Betty Boop, I know Betty Boop." She tells you how Hollywood works in this universe. It used to be purely in black and white, and then they moved to color. But cartoons like Betty Boop were naturally in black and white, so she lost her job. The film doesn't sit on this moment. It tells you it happened, but it doesn't sit on it, because it's natural world building. And heck, if you're a big Hollywood person, You know the allegory they're going for here. In very early filmmaking, there was no sound. Actors would say their lines, and then you'd get a big block of text telling you what they said. This was heaven for vaudeville actors who wanted to break out, because vaudeville actors overacted. So it was really a way to get the emotional range that they were giving out, because you can't get emotional range through just reading text. At least not in a visual medium like film. Then they invented putting sound in pitches, and those vaudeville actors found themselves completely out of work. Sometimes the best world building for your fantasy is just stealing it from history. And it's stuff like that I think of when I'm watching Roger Rabbit. I like the spectacle stuff. I like Daffy and Donald fighting each other. But what I like a lot more is how much I really like Roger Rabbit the character. I like the character growth and arc with Eddie Valiant. I don't care that you can see the villain from a mile away. It's a friggin' kids movie. And even with that, it's a really good murder mystery. I do hold it up as one of the better ones. And hey, just to remind you that there's some history jokes in here, the Cloverfield stuff really happened. It's a fun and unique film to this day for this reason. When you really look at it, lots of films have tried this spectacle stuff. But those films don't have an Eddie Valiant, or a Roger Rabbit, or a Judge Doom. They don't have a Jessica Rabbit. They don't even have a Benny the Cab. There is something still fresh about this film, no matter how much the technology has marched on. So, you're probably expecting like a 5-star rating from me after all the nice I've been doing. I'll be real though. I still really like the film, but sometimes the icing is a bit too thick, and I want more of the cake. I want more quiet moments with Eddie, and I want more quiet moments with Roger. It's nice that I get to see Goofy, but I want that little bit more that I know the film can do. And so in a weird way, when it comes to live action Disney film with some good animation that was a technical marvel, a lot of the time I find Tron to be that experience. And so for that, in the ranking list, I think Tron, at least temporarily, is going to be a little bit higher. Maybe that will change one day. But that also means Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a 4-star film. And like I said, any of the films that I give a 4-star rating or above in this little Disney project, those are the ones I say are certified, need to see, represents the company as a whole, Disney film. And yeah, plenty of films look like this, plenty of films attempt this. Not many of them actually nail what it's really going for.
It feels so great to touch your plate and look at me. No pain. No pain. No pain.